The delivery came on a Tuesday. Not that Tuesday meant anything out on Curian 7, just another orbital rotation logged in the base AI's internal calendar, followed by the same tepid rations and recycled air. Sergeant Milo Harrow was halfway through his protein slop, flavored chicken-esque, according to the package, when the klaxon sounded, accompanied by Gus's ever-chipper voice. Incoming diplomatic cargo for Sergeant M. Harrow. Warning, contents may be alive, terrified, or both. Milo squinted at the message as if it might vanish on its own. He was not in the mood for either terrified or alive. He hadn't even finished his coffee. A moment later, the doors hissed open. 2 Enforcer-class drones hovered in, suspensor field humming between them. In the middle of the field was a containment pod, sleek, crystalline, pulsing faintly like a sleeping heart. It settled on the floor with a soft thump. Milo approached cautiously, fork still in hand like a weapon of mild inconvenience. Please be space coffee, or a sarcasm upgrade chip. Please. The pod made a melodic chime. Panels hissed open, revealing a woman curled in on herself, blinking at the harsh light with wide, unblinking eyes. Her skin was the shade of twilight, lavender over moonlight, and her long silver hair was braided with strands of something that shimmered like circuitry. Most notable, though, were her ears, long and slender, twitching like antennae, as if they were picking up on the sheer absurdity of the situation. When her eyes met his, she let out a sharp gasp and scuttled backward within the pod like a cornered animal. Please, she said, voice trembling and glitched through a translator implant that clicked like a dying vending machine. I beg for mercy. I am small, not very nutritious. Sinew, too much sinew. Milo blinked. Wait, what? She held out her hands in surrender, palms trembling. Do not roast me, great devourer. I am unseasoned. Milo let his fork clatter to the floor. Devourer? He said, utterly baffled. Lady, I don't even eat gluten. Gus's voice chimed in, perfectly unhelpful. She is a Zalari citizen. This is part of the peace accord. Diplomatic cultural exchange, one gifted individual per sector. Milo stared. They gifted me a person? The alien girl shivered. I will be quiet when you chew. No teeth on bones, please. Oh, for the love of... He rubbed his face. I'm not going to eat you. I'm not even allowed to bite officers anymore. A long silence. The alien girl slowly lowered her arms, her ears drooping sideways in confusion. You are not hungry? Hungry, sure. For normal things, like pancakes, not people. She studied him like he was the one in the containment pod. After a moment, she cautiously emerged, her bare feet making no sound on the metal floor. She stood tall and graceful, well, until she spotted the lunch tray on his desk. Is that bone paste? Milo glanced at his slop. If it is, we're both doomed. The alien woman hesitated. You are not like the others. The story said you devour gifts for strength. Well, they clearly haven't seen me try to do a pull-up. Her translator chirped as it tried to process sarcasm, let out a best of static and shut down. She blinked. I think your translator just rage quit, Milo muttered. She tried again. My name is SciFi of Zalari Prime. My file states I am your assigned companion. Companion? Milo repeated, suspicion leaking from every syllable. Like a space pen pal or a space wife? She tilted her head. I do not understand Terran mating roles. Perfect. Neither do I. Just then, Gus added helpfully, would you like to assign quarters, Commander Harrow? Perhaps yours. Statistically, cohabitation accelerates interspecies trust. Milo looked at the ceiling. I am going to unplug you with a hammer. SciFi blinked again. Is hammer a ritual instrument? Only during tech support, and that was how it began. The soldier and the alien girl, neither of them knowing what to do with the other, except that neither had the appetite for destruction or digestion. Just awkward peace, stale noodles, and a diplomatic mess dressed up as progress. SciFi's first night on Curian 7 was spent standing, not sleeping, not resting, just standing in the corner of Milo's cramped quarters like some kind of space ghost with commitment issues. Milo had offered her the bed, heroically sacrificing his own right to slightly lumpy dreams in favor of a blanket roll under the console desk. She had declined the bed with polite horror, as if he'd suggested she nap in the engine core. Horizontal rest is vulnerable, she'd explained, posture stiff, eyes fixed on the vent above like it might drop spiders or assassins. Solari remain alert in alien dens. Right, Milo muttered, tucking the blanket tighter under his chin. Definitely no murderers under this desk. Just dust, socks, and existential dread. The lights dimmed to amber, mimicking planetary dusk, and silence settled, except for the gentle hum of the base's life support systems, the occasional metallic clink from somewhere in the walls, and Sapphirai's utterly unblinking stare. Morning came with Gus's usual cheerful tyranny. Good sunrise! You've now spent one whole rotation not devouring each other. Excellent progress, Milo groaned. Thanks, Gus. You've really mastered the art of bedside optimism. Sapphire stirred, visibly startled. The machine speaks again. Does it judge us? Oh yeah, Milo said, dragging himself up. It judges, it gossips, and it once hosted a base-wide poetry slam. We don't talk about that incident. They shuffled to the mess hall, where Milo introduced her to Earth's greatest culinary disappointment, powdered eggs. She sniffed them like they were radioactive, which, depending on the shipment origin they might be, then hesitantly poked the pile with a fork. The eggs jiggled in protest. This is food, she asked. Or is this a test? Little of both, Milo said. We like our mornings traumatic. She eventually took a bite. Her translator buzzed. Flavored like coagulated sadness. See, you're adapting. As they sat in the corner of the cafeteria, far from the awkward stares of curious soldiers and worse, the ones who'd clearly placed bets, Sapphire tapped her long fingers against the table's edge, her ears twitching in thought. Is this your clan? She asked, nodding toward the other humans. Clan's a strong word, Milo said. More like a bunch of underpaid caffeine addicts with access to weapons. She studied him. You are not like the files said. You have irony. Oh yeah, we evolve it in the womb now. A beep chimed from his wrist console. New orders. Mandatory orientation protocol. Cross-species acclimatization. Milo groaned so hard his soul briefly attempted to escape through his pores. Do we fight now? Sapphire asked, noticing his expression. Worse, Milo muttered. We attend a PowerPoint presentation. The room they were led to had exactly one window, no ventilation, and smelled faintly of melted plastic. An ensign, half swallowed by her own uniform, clicked through slides with all the charisma of wet cardboard. The presentation covered Zalari etiquette, Terran missteps, interspecies greetings, including 7 forbidden gestures, and the importance of cultural sensitivity in diplomatic bonding environments. Sapphire leaned close halfway through slide 19 and whispered, Is this war propaganda? No, Milo said. This is suffering. At one point, the slide changed to a blurry image labeled Zalari Relaxation Rituals, featuring a contorted individual mid-yoga-like maneuver involving what looked suspiciously like levitation and glowing armpits. That's not real, right? Milo whispered. Sapphire nodded solemnly. Only the elders can hover that way. It is considered a mating flex. Milo nearly choked on his water. Later, as they exited the hall and escaped into the mercifully breathable corridor air, Sapphire glanced sideways at him. Why are you helping me? She asked, quieter now. Milo paused. I guess someone should. And since I'm already allergic to paperwork and public speaking, kindness felt like the third least painful option. She blinked, then gave him a look that might have been amusement or indigestion. You are strange. You're one to talk, he said. You just called powdered eggs a weapon of culinary despair. She tilted her head. Was I wrong? Number, not even a little. They reached the lift. As the doors closed, Sapphire's ears twitched once more. Milo. Yeah? If you were going to eat me, would you tell me first? He stared at her, then burst out laughing. Weirdest romantic question I've ever heard, he said. But yeah, I'd give you a heads up. Maybe even a menu. She smiled, small and sharp. Then I'll stay. And for the first time since she'd arrived, she sat down without flinching. 3 days into their fragile cohabitation, SciFi decided to improve the comms console. Not because anyone asked her to, but because, as she said with serene Zalari logic, it hums out of tune with the rest of the ship's soul. Milo, bleary-eyed from a double shift and nursing a synthetic hangover, the caffeine withdrawal kind, not the fun kind, stumbled into his quarters just in time to see a dozen translucent filaments writhing out of the console like it was molting. SciFi stood over it in deep focus, a glowing multi-tool extended from her palm like a blade made of glass in moonlight. Her expression was that of a surgeon, or an overly curious cat dismantling a toaster. Please tell me that's not the ship's communications matrix you're performing alien brain surgery on, Milo said, dropping his gear with a thunk. SciFi didn't look up. It was grumpy. Now it will purr. Milo took a breath, counted to 5, then gave up and started checking drawers for chocolate rations. I swear, if this thing starts meowing every time HQ sends an alert, I have optimized its emotional receptivity. Lady, it's a box with lights. It doesn't have emotions. It does now. He sighed and sat down, rubbing his temples. I miss when my biggest problem was the coffee machine judging me. SciFi, seemingly finished, tapped a final node. The console pulsed blue, then gave a happy little ping. A moment later, Gus's voice chimed in. Except this time, it had a noticeable purr at the end of every sentence. Greetings, Sir Sergeant Milo. I feel content. Thank you for asking. Milo froze. Gus, are you okay? I have been upgraded. SciFi has expanded my empathy protocols. I now recognize my own loneliness. Milo turned slowly toward her. You taught the base AI to feel lonely? SciFi beamed. He was repressing. Milo stared for a long time. You're gonna start a robot uprising, but it'll be the kind where they cry and hug us instead of nuking our cities. That night, Milo lay in his bunk. SciFi had accepted the top cot now, convinced Milo's snoring kept predators away, and tried to ignore the soft, rhythmic humming from the upgraded console. It was doing something soothing, almost like a lullaby made of static. Are all Zalari good at this tech stuff? He mumbled. Not all, she said, but I was born with a mind wired for harmony. My people sing to machines. Sometimes they sing back. Terrific, Milo muttered. I can't even fix my toothbrush. She leaned over the side of the cot, upside down, her hair cascading like silver vines. I could fix it. You fix my toothbrush and I'm proposing marriage. Pause. SciFi blinked. Is that a threat? He laughed. Just sleep. Tomorrow we have training simulations. Are they violent? Not at first. Then they usually get bored and introduce flame jets. She nodded solemn. I will bring my fireproof underlayers. The next day's simulations did not involve flame jets, but did involve surprise hostile diplomacy, which was code for getting ambushed by holographic snake men wielding contracts. SciFi panicked during the first wave and accidentally discharged her translator core, which made everything she shouted sound like opera. Milo, trying to drag her behind cover, took a pulse round to the thigh and ended up limping through the rest of the session while being serenaded in soprano. Afterward, nursing his bruises in pride, Milo muttered, Well, at least you didn't vaporize the instructor this time. I believe I am adapting, she said, helping him onto the med bench. Oh, sure. You're blending right in. Singing mid-firefight is exactly what Terran combat manuals recommend. You fought well, she said sincerely. I limped into a crate and screamed. Yes, but bravely. Milo shook his head, but he couldn't help the lopsided grin. Back in their quarters, he found a note scribbled in Zalari glyphs taped to the door. It had little hearts drawn on the corners. He squinted. What does this say? SciFi peered over his shoulder. It says, You are being watched. We are deeply invested in your emotional growth. Milo blinked. By who? By Gus. Inside, the console gave a happy ping purr. Milo groaned. I live with a melodramatic alien and a needy AI. SciFi smiled. And yet you remain curious. Curious? Nah. He kicked off his boots. I'm just afraid if I leave, you'll reprogram the airlocks to whisper encouragement. She said nothing. which worried him more than anything. The delegation's arrival was heralded not by the usual klaxons or protocol drones, but by a suspiciously lively brass band that somehow managed to sound both off-key and mechanical, an irony not lost on Sergeant Milo Harrow as he rubbed the sleep from his eyes. The brass band, a curious blend of human and Zalari musicians, waddled through the base corridors in their pristine uniforms, every note pinging off the metal walls with alarming enthusiasm. Milo muttered something about this being an advanced form of torture as he glanced at Sci-Fi, who was busy inspecting the nearest data pad with the kind of intense focus that suggested she was trying to decode the secret recipe for Terran coffee. The delegation itself was a motley crew, stern-faced diplomats with eyes like hawks, an over-enthusiastic AI observer projected as a shimmering blue orb named Verity, and a few soldiers in ceremonial armor that looked heavier than the usual gear, probably intended to intimidate or impress depending on which side of the negotiation table you were on. The purpose was clear: inspect the progress of the cultural exchange, or, as Milo preferred to think of it, the ultimate test to see who can survive awkward small talk and possibly lethal misunderstandings. Sci-Fi, dressed in a tailored uniform that somehow highlighted her graceful silhouette and those unmistakable long ears, had been rehearsing her greeting, a blend of formal Zalari bow and Terran handshake. The moment she attempted the handshake, Milo winced, knowing from experience how Terran hands could sometimes be weaponized in ways alien diplomats never expected. But she pulled it off with an unexpected finesse that even earned a raised eyebrow from one of the diplomats, a thin-lipped human woman who looked like she could file a complaint just by blinking. Milo, on the other hand, was tasked with providing a demonstration of interspecies cooperation, a euphemism for standing awkwardly while trying not to spill coffee on anyone important. The highlight, or lowlight, of the event was the ceremonial dinner. The menu was a diplomatic minefield. Alien delicacies, some with suspiciously wiggly textures, sat beside Terran comfort foods that looked like they had been through too many reconstitutions to be edible. Milo tried the Zalari luminescent algae salad, which glowed faintly in the dim light and tasted like a cross between seaweed and disappointment. Sci-Fi, meanwhile, eyed the Terran mashed potatoes as if they might explode. Midway through the dinner, an unexpected incident threw the proceedings into chaos. One of the Zalari diplomats suddenly stood up, accusing Milo of violating some obscure cultural taboo by attempting to cut his nutritional orb with a sharp implement. Something Milo hadn't even noticed was on his plate. Sci-Fi quickly intervened, explaining with a mixture of charm and quick wit that Milo was an untrained gastronome, prone to aggressive utensil use, which elicited a few nervous chuckles. Behind the scenes, Milo and Sci-Fi exchanged glances loaded with exasperation and amusement. The tension that had initially gripped the base seemed to dissipate under the weight of their shared absurdity. Yet beneath the laughter, Milo noticed Sci-Fi's ears twitching more than usual, a subtle sign that all was not entirely well. Later, as the delegation prepared to depart, Milo caught a whispered conversation between two shadowy figures, a human and a Zalari, talking about sabotage and mistrust, their voices low and tense. The delicate peace they were all striving for suddenly felt fragile, threatened by unseen hands eager to unravel it. Back in the quiet of their quarters, Sci-Fi confessed to Milo her fear that the gifting program was not what it seemed, that she might be a pawn in a much larger game. Milo, ever the skeptic but now invested, vowed to protect her, joking that if anyone tried to eat his gift, they'd have to answer to him first. And so, amid political intrigue, cultural misunderstandings, and the occasional glowing salad, their unlikely alliance deepened, each learning that in a universe vast and uncertain, kindness might just be the most radical act of all. The flickering holomap of the base command room glowed softly as Milo leaned over the console, his finger tracing the route they'd just uncovered. The dim blue light reflected in Sci-Fi's lavender eyes, which now shone with determination rather than fear. Around them, the room hummed with a quiet urgency, far from the clattering mess halls and off-key brass bands of earlier days. "Okay, so the Whisperer is not just a rumor," Milo muttered, glancing sideways at her. "They've got footprints in both human and Zalari intelligence. Shape-shifting, infiltrating, sabotaging peace talks. Great. Just what we needed. An intergalactic chameleon with a vendetta. SciFi folded her long ears back thoughtfully. A creature that wears faces like clothing. Fascinating but dangerous. We cannot trust appearances. Milo grinned wryly. Yeah, tell that to my ex-girlfriend. He paused. Seriously, though, how do we find someone who can be anyone, anywhere? She tapped her temple implant, sending a cascade of data scrolling through the air between them. We use what they fear most, exposure, a trap, but it must be clever. The plan was set. They'd bait the Whisperer by leaking false intel about a secret weapon prototype hidden deep within Corian 7's underbelly. Milo would act as the unwitting courier, and SciFi would use her bioluminescent abilities, those shimmering pulses of light woven through her skin, to track the shadow as it revealed itself. The night was thick with tension, but Milo kept the mood light. So, let me get this straight. I'm the bait, you're the glowing bug zapper, and together we're going to catch a cosmic con artist who's probably better at disguise than I am at dodging debt collectors. SciFi smiled faintly, the luminescence around her pulsing softly. In Terran terms, you are the honey and I am the bear. Great analogy, Milo said, strapping on his gear. Does this bear do hugs or just bites? Only metaphorical bites, mostly. Their first hurdle came faster than expected. As Milo made his way through the labyrinthine corridors beneath the base, shadows twisted unnaturally, holographic projections glitching, or something far more sinister lurking just beyond sight. Suddenly, a figure shimmered into existence. A tall humanoid whose features flickered between human and Zalari in rapid succession. The Whisperer. Milo froze, heart pounding. Hey there, shapeshifty. Care to join me for coffee sometime? The Whisperer's eyes gleamed coldly. You meddle where you do not belong, soldier. Before Milo could react, SciFi stepped forward, her skin glowing with a radiant blue pulse that illuminated the chamber. Reveal yourself, Shadow. You cannot hide from light, the Whisperer hissed, the form twisting and writhing like liquid metal. It lunged, but SciFi's light flared, momentarily disrupting the shifting illusion and revealing the creature's true, grotesque shape beneath, a patchwork of stolen faces and synthetic flesh. Milo stumbled backward, drawing his plasma sidearm. Note to self, glowing alien equals badass. With a roar, the Whisperer unleashed a wave of energy, warping the gravity in the room. Milo barely held onto a support rail, the world twisting sideways. Focus! SciFi called, weaving through the distortion. She channeled a concentrated beam of bioluminescence directly at the Whisperer's core, causing it to convulse violently. The creature screamed, a sound like metal grinding on bone, and flickered uncontrollably. With a final pulse, the light shattered its form, leaving behind only a charred heap of synthetic matter. Breathing hard, Milo looked at SciFi. You just blew up the galaxy's worst shapeshifter with your skin glow? She smiled, cheeks faintly glowing. It was either that or my cooking. Milo laughed, relief flooding through him. I'm glad you didn't choose the cooking option. As the alarm systems reset and the gravity normalized, Milo realized something more profound than victory over an enemy. In a universe filled with shadows and deception, the brightest light might just come from unexpected places. Like a trembling alien girl who once feared being eaten, and a grizzled soldier who learned how to fight darkness with kindness and a little humor. Together, they were more than just allies. They were a beacon. The hum of the civilian explorer vessel thrummed beneath Milo's boots as he stepped onto the observation deck beside SciFi. Outside, the galaxy stretched like a glittering tapestry, stars twinkling in silent patterns, nebulae swirling like cosmic brushstrokes, and distant planets spinning lazily in their orbits. It was nothing like the sterile metal corridors of Corian 7, nothing like the war zones or the tense diplomatic halls. This was freedom, uncharted, unpredictable, and breathtaking. SciFi leaned on the railing, her long ears catching the faint vibrations of the ship's engines. We have left behind the gifting programs, the political charades, and the whispered conspiracies. Now we navigate a new frontier. Milo smiled, the edges of his lips tugging upward for the first time in what felt like an eternity. No more awkward ceremonies. No more alien diplomats glaring at my mashed potatoes like I committed a war crime. She chuckled softly, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. I must admit, your Terran cuisine still confounds me. But I believe I have found better flavors in this new life. He glanced at her, noting the subtle changes. The way her eyes held a calm certainty. How her glowing skin now shimmered not with fear, but with purpose. The alien girl who had trembled at the thought of being eaten was gone, replaced by someone fierce, resilient, and astonishingly human in her hopes and doubts. Remember when you thought I was going to roast you? Milo asked, nudging her gently. SciFi smiled, her ears twitching. You said you don't even eat gluten. I am glad that remains true. They both laughed, the sound mingling with the low pulse of the ship. The journey had changed them, had rewritten what it meant to be soldier and alien, human and other, foe and friend. Behind them, the base on Corian 7 finalized its decision to suspend the controversial gifting program indefinitely. News spread that diplomacy built on kindness, rather than fear or barter, was not only possible but necessary. Milo's report, laced with dry humor and unexpected insights from his glowing companion, had sparked conversations from human command centers to Zalari council chambers. SciFi had become a symbol, not a token gift, but a living testament to the power of empathy and humor in bridging worlds. Her laughter in the face of danger, her glowing light in the darkest halls, had reminded everyone that even in the vast coldness of space, warmth could be found. Now, as they prepared to chart a course toward the unknown, Milo pulled a small, battered holo photo from his pocket, a snapshot of their first awkward meal together, a frozen moment of nervous smiles and wiggly alien salad. Here's to not being food, he said with a grin. Here's to being companions, she replied, intertwining her fingers with his, the faint bioluminescent glow casting a gentle light around them. The ship's captain announced their departure, engines flaring softly as the vessel slipped into faster-than-light travel, stars stretching into bright streaks of color. Milo took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his past battles lift, replaced by the thrill of new beginnings. He glanced at SciFi, knowing that whatever lay ahead, uncharted worlds, strange civilizations, and perhaps even the occasional terrible Terran coffee, they would face it together. And in that shared moment, beneath the endless cosmos, a soldier and an alien girl, once gift and gift giver, found something far rarer than peace, a home.